Mary, I do. I'm delighted to get to call you up. How are you?
Good. How about you?
I'm really good. Really good. Yeah. It's nice to get some sun today.
Yes. When I was out all day and I came in and my house was warm for the first time. It felt like months.
The other day, I got in the car and I didn't even turn the air on or anything, and it was warm. I just wanted to be hot. Yeah. Well, happy Sunday. Sunny day.
Yeah.
Well, Sunday is an actual day.
Look at that.
You mean, yeah.
You got to use her while you've got her.
Yeah, seriously.
I didn't get
Yeah, I'm
this.
starting to call. I mean, even after. Sure. Yeah.
Thing until. Just wait until David's.
Okay, also, okay, you, how about you?
You gonna know.
Okay.
You started. You started.
Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I think that, and by the way, I want to say a Shabbat Shalom to everyone who is joining us here in our sanctuary, and a Shabbat Shalom to everyone who's joining us online as well. If you're joining us online on Facebook or on YouTube, I want to invite you to hop into the chat and offer a Shabbat Shalom to one another, as well as you'll find at TILB, is this a little better? TILB.org, you'll find a slightly higher quality live stream. And at the end of our service, you'll be able to offer the names of those that you're thinking of for our healing prayer or memorial prayer. But at this time, just a welcome to one another and a Shabbat Shalom to one another. For those of us who are here in our sanctuary, I think there's something that happens on Shabbat that we don't really get to have happen in any other way. We are in a culture, a society where often we're able to shift and jump into things very quickly and very easily, but there is an experience to Shabbat that is simply not available in any way other than to relax and enjoy the day. And so, this particular Shabbat, we want to invite all of us into this space, this 24 or 25 hours of time set aside from a world that is bustling with all kinds of things on our to-do lists. I'm sorry for mentioning to-do lists. If you're like me, that's, quickly put it away and ran. It's a time when we can just enjoy. And again, there's no way to get to this experience of resting, this experience of enjoying, other than stopping, taking the time either to open up our books, to sing together, or simply to take a deep breath. So this Shabbat, we want to have this opportunity to be together, to rest, to let down a little bit from a week that I imagine for all of us has been running from this way and that. So I am here to say, congratulations, you made it to the end of the week. And we want to make sure to teach our teenagers, our budding adults, what it means to be able to stop. Because we live in a world that will always remind us and invite us and push us to go and go and go. And so here, together and tonight, we are doing a radically different thing. We're going to take a moment to stop. Throughout our service, we are going to be led by our 7th graders, and the hope is that it's an invitation for each of you as well to learn a little bit of that rest, a little bit of that stopping. This Shabbat, we also have an opportunity to do some learning and some memory. In our culture, in our community, memory is a critical part of what it means to be together. We come together and we remember, and so our 7th graders also have been learning about the events of the Second World War, the Holocaust, and we'll be hearing some readings, some writings that they have put together for this evening. But for now, we have the opportunity to hear our service in a new voice, to be taught what it means to stop, to rest, to relax, with words that are ancient and words that each and every Shabbat are renewed. So I'd like to call up our entire class to sing the words Shir Chadash with us. We'll find these words on page 13 of our prayer books. So there is a practice during a Shabbat service, not to applaud because it's not a performance, but there are still times where we might be moved by some of the things that are offered. And so I want to invite us to do what is done in some communities to offer what I understand is applause in ASL. When we are able to be led so beautifully in prayer. Well done, you guys. Well, we continue this evening with prayer that was given to us also by innovators, also by those who saw a new voice in Judaism. And so they offered in our service the poem of Lecha Dodi. And they invited and imagined the celebration of two people bringing their lives together. And Shabbat, even as a bride herself. And so not now, but when we get to the last verse of our song, I'm going to invite us to actually rise and to turn to the door through which we entered our sanctuary, and to welcome Shabbat as if she were a bride here to celebrate with us on her wedding day. I invite us to turn to page 20. Let's sing together.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat likabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmianu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shem u'tiferet ve'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Hitorari, kiva oreich kumi ori. Uri, shidaveri, kivod Adonai alaich nigla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela.
Please rise.
Boi v'shalom materet bela, gam b'simcha u'b'tzola. Toch emunei am segula, boi chala, Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Shalom malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, malachei hashalom.
Well, believe it or not, we are about to begin a new day. Everything that we've done up until this point is to kind of warm ourselves up to the idea of welcoming on Shabbat. And so, as we formally begin this new day, I'd like to call up Lily and her family to light the candles and to begin this day with a bit of brightness. Come on up, Sam. And we are going to welcome this day as one community with warmth, with a bit of brightness. The rest of the congregation, I'd like to invite to please be seated. Come on up, Sam.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat shalom.
Well, the very first thing we do together as one community when we begin the new day of Shabbat is we turn towards each other, saying that this is a holiday simply because we are able to celebrate it and share it with one another. And so I'd like to call up Josephine and Elizabeth and Riley to lead us in our Baruch Hu prayer.
Please join us on page 28 for the Baruch Hu, and please rise in body or in spirit. Next, we would like to invite Jacob to the podium.
Please join me on page 30 for the Ma'ariv Aravim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim. Bechokma poteach sha'arim, v'nama meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem, barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla golel, or mipnei chosech, v'chosech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi, Laila umavdil bein yom uvein, Laila Adonai tzebaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu l'shlo'ba'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim.
Please join me on page 32 for Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Havta, Amcha Havta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadata, Otanu limadata. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbenu, uvkumenu na'asiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, ve'orach yameinu, Uvahem negeyomam v'layla, negeyomam v'layla. Ve'ahavatcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael, Ohev amo Yisrael. Michael?
Please join me on page 34 for the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. You may be seated. I'd like to invite up Lily and the Cantor.
Please turn to page 36 for the Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anohim me'savecha al yom al levavecha ve'shimnatam levavecha ve'tiatam bam ve'shimtecha be'lecha u'techa v'derech u'v'shotmecha u'chumecha u'shyotam leot al yodecha ve'hayu little tafot beinenecha u'tavtam al mezuzot betecha u'fisharecha leman tiskeru v'asetem netil v'shtai v'hitahem noshim le'elohehem ani Adonai Elohehem asher hoteitem me'eretz Mitzrayim v'shiot lehem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohehem Elohehem admit. Can I call up David?
Please turn to page 40 for the Mi Chamocha. La 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot asefele, Nora tehilot asefele, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Malchutacha uvanecha, Bukei ayam livnei Moshe uMiriam, Ze'elianu ve'ameru, Ze'elianu ve'ameru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. I would like to invite up Michael, Safira, and Miriam to join me in Hashkivenu.
Please join me on page 42 for the Hashkivenu.
Yivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'ha'amideinu shomreinu l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, all wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
Next is the Vishamru with McKenna and Sadie.
Please join us on page 44 for the Vishamru. Vishamru. השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם מראית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם מראית עולם.
Would Miriam and Saphira please stand?
Please join us on page 46 for the tefillah.
שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher HaSe'avot v'Imahot, Mevi Geula l'bnei bneihem, L'ma'an Shemo be'achava, Melech Ozer u'Mashiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah, Rav le'Hoshia, Mashiv haruach u'marid ha'Gashem, Mechakel hayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umechayim emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech mimit umechayeh, Umatzliach Yeshua, Le'eman atah l'chayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, L'chayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kdoshim b'chol yom, Hallelujah Selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please continue silently with the words either in your siddur or in your own heart, and when you have finished your prayers, you may be seated.
Well, this evening we have the opportunity to learn from our 7th graders. And so I want to invite us, for those of us who had the opportunity to grab, there are 2 handouts for this evening. One is a beige color, the other is a white color. I want to invite us to take a look at this one as we hear some readings, some reflections on learning about the events of the Second World War, the Holocaust, from our 7th graders this evening.
I'm sure you all have heard about all the suffering during the Holocaust. During that time, resistance meant standing up to the Nazis in any way possible.
These acts of bravery include something as big as rebelling in the ghettos to something as small as smuggling a loaf of bread. Tonight, our class will take you on a journey through the young minds of Holocaust resistors.
The Holocaust was an awful time in Jewish history, as many know. However, there were minor acts of resistance that occurred. In a few ghettos in Lithuania, the kitchen staff organized events for the prisoners. Every so often, there were concerts, as well as things like readings and poetry events. Additionally, the people that worked in the kitchen received courtesy from the staff, something that they had been deprived of. All of these events were against the rules of the ghetto, but the Jews accomplished having them. In the Cantor ghetto, there were a few kitchens and bakeries. The Jews that were placed there would sometimes open up the kitchen to assist the hungry community. In other ghettos, people were doing similar feats. One example of this is some people that were in a workshop made sandals for the laborers who otherwise had to walk barefoot. We have been learning about all the tragedies, but also the hope and resistance through the ghettos and concentration camps during these years. Next is David.
There once was a boy named David. It was the year 1940. He lived in the ghettos. It was very rough. People were getting into fights over the smallest things, not knowing what harm they were doing. He was about 24 years old and had just gotten out of college. He was stuck on the streets trying to survive. People would help him, and soon enough, he would be helping them. He would teach the young steal bread from others. He also fought to help the ones being abused by the Nazis. One day, while on patrol to help resistors feed their families, he died protecting those families. For generations, we look at this and we see that being brave and helpful was to resist. I'd like to call it Jacob Dabrowski.
If I lived during the Holocaust, I would resist because I wouldn't want to die without doing anything to help people survive. One way I would resist in the ghettos would be to smuggle bread for others. I would do this because it's a way to help others survive. However, if I was in the concentration camp, I might not do this because it's more dangerous. One person who did this was Victor Perez, a former Jewish boxing champion. He was on a death march and the Jewish prisoners were starving. Joseph had snuck away from the group and found a sack of bread in an abandoned German camp's kitchen. He went back to the group, but then an SS guard shot him. Sadly, he was never able to bring the bread back to his friends. However, Joseph was a brave resistor. I would like to call up Michael.
Imagine you're living in a ghetto in the 1940s. You are starving for food, so you steal some food and bring it to your friends and family, and if you have any extra food, you give it to passing by Jews. This is resistance. Sadly, in desperate times like these, just living another day was resistance. In the ghetto, it's very sad, but most of what we know is not from survivors, but from diaries, documentation, and underground newspapers. Resistance is not killing 100 Nazis. It was anything to keep living. I'd like to invite up Levi.
The Vedem, in the lead, was a secret Czech language magazine published by boys aged 13 to 15. These boys lived in the Home 1 barracks of Tezerin, a camp and a ghetto. They wanted to create an active, mature society and transform their fate. A quote from Walter Roth states, "They have only one aim in mind, to destroy us, not only physically, but mentally and morally as well." Will they succeed? Never. Only about 15 of about 100 of the home won survived the Holocaust. To me, resistance means not giving in to the pressure and fighting for what is right. I'd like to introduce Sadie.
To smuggle a loaf of bread was to resist. This is the first line in the poem Resistance Is by Haim Guri and Monia Avrahami. Jews in the Holocaust had to do everything in secret. Things that Jews used to do on a daily basis was now known as resisting. The living conditions in the ghettos were awful. There were over 5 families in one room, and food was very scarce. To wrap it up, just living another day and just living in general was resisting. I'd like to call up Lily.
To resist meant many things in the time of the Jews in the Holocaust. One of the most important kinds of resistance were those that didn't harm anyone. These acts, like stealing food, teaching others, and spreading information, were all acts that helped people stay alive and hopeful. One of the most important things in the eyes of the Jews is life and the avoidance of unnecessary death. People who stole food helped keep those starving alive and avoided death by stealing only enough to survive. Resistors taught the others, kept others hopeful and active, and stayed unattacked by teaching underground. And spreading information helped deal with anxiety and prepared people for what was to come, and helped them survive, and help them to survive. I would like to call up Shia for his piece.
The Nazi aimed his machine gun at Pierre's and fired. This bit from a Holocaust survivor's testimony shows the true evil of the Nazis, shooting a man that was just trying to bring bread to his fellow starving Jews. This man was Victor Young Perez, who was a Jewish boxing champion. He was born on 20th of 1911 and died on January 21st, 1945, at the age of 33. He was captured by the Nazis on an unknown date. At this time, he and other Jews were on the 4th day of a death march. Many were already dead, and the rest were starving and freezing. Pierre's had snuck away from the others and found an abandoned German camp, where he discovered a sack of bread. He tried to bring it to his fellow Jews, but on that day, he was shot down by the Nazi guard. I'd like to call up Josephine.
This is a piece by Zachary Hammer, who was not able to make it this evening. I, Zachary, was sent from a concentration camp to a death camp. I was malnourished. The camp I went to was freezing. Some people were confused. They did not understand that we were tortured just for being Jewish. We almost froze to death. We resisted by teaching people how to write and speak. That is how I resisted. That is how I lived. I would like to introduce McKenna.
Imagine life in a different world. No learning, no music, no space to yourself. That was life in a ghetto. But not for all. There were the resistors. They were the ones who could stand up to the Nazis, or the ones who said the Shema each and every morning and night. They were the ones who taught the children their history, or the ones who wrote in secret underground newspapers, telling, teaching, and sharing stories of life in the ghettos. The resistors, the ones who stood up, spiritually, physically, written, or spoken, were the ones who showed us, inspired us, and motivated us to keep going and be brave. I'd like to call up Josephine.
Dear world citizens, people are starving. Lives are disappearing with the blink of an eye. Jews are drinking from a poisoned water supply. We are here today because of them. Those resistors made us who we are. During Jewish history, this has happened over and over and over again. Unfortunately, that's all history now, and we are unable to change the past. So instead of focusing on the past, let's strive to make an impact on future generations. I'd like to introduce Riley.
I am a Holocaust survivor. Smuggling bread, distributing underground newsletters, and forging documents was to survive and resist. People took risks to resist. Documentation and diaries, staying strong for the young, revolting against the bad. These dangerous actions protected us. The Jews who were living were resisting. I'd like to invite up Safira.
In the ghetto, much was prohibited. From school to food, you were punished for trying to thrive or even just survive. Bright flowers, young and old, uprooted from their homes, replanted in evil soil, not meant to survive. In a place where boredom and starvation ruled, some had the strength to fight for change. They fought for us and their futures. They were the resistors. If not for them, we would not be alive. They led a few to survive the horror of those camps. Those few were our ancestors. They were the ones who came before us.
I'm really struck by this theme and this notion of what it means to resist. In a world where things are taking place that can cause such terrible harm, I think there's a power to looking at a bit of light in that space. Tonight, we've been taught by our 7th graders what it means to look for a place of healing in a place that's difficult. In just a few weeks, we're going to be celebrating the holiday of Passover, and one of the most important things for Passover, one of the things that always moves me is it says, remember, you yourselves were slaves in the land of Egypt. And what we take from that is that we need to go out and to do good work. We live in a world that's in need of healing. And so even as we look to recent history and we look to these tragic and terrible events of the Holocaust, I want to thank each of you for showing us a little bit of light. There is a way to resist these things. There is a way to move forward, and in the grand scheme of the world, this is what healing looks like. Today, we see the example of these people who resisted, who stood up, and who did the work they needed to do to change things as a model. Some of you said, I myself was there in that space. I was a survivor myself, and each and every one of you are an actor of resistance. So thank you for offering for us the invitation to bring resistance into this world and to make it just a little bit better. That's what healing looks like. Tonight, we are going to continue this healing not just by looking into our history, not just by looking in the past, but to looking to each other as well. And so I'd like to invite our thoughts to turn to those in our community who are in need of that healing. For those of us who are joining online, I'd like to invite you to share the names of those you're thinking of in the chat at this time. And for all of us, I want to invite us to take a look at our pamphlet, now the beige-colored pamphlet. And you'll see the names of those in our community who are in need of that healing. Just as we have learned about the good work that we can do, the resistance that we can bring to things that might hurt, an act of healing is, again, just a touch of that resistance. And so if you see a name on this list, someone that you haven't talked to in a while, someone that you know, I invite you to reach out to them. Ask them how they're doing. Tell them that you're thinking of them. There are many different ways that healing takes place. In this space, we focus on how our hearts heal, how our spirits heal. And that, quite simply, is how we do it. I'd like to invite us as well to call especially to mind those who have recently come onto our Misha Berach list. And so our hearts are with Harriet Einhorn and Joel Epstein, Karen Fried and Chuck Leff, Robert Schaefer, Lauren Brownstein, Shelley Fuchs-Darman, Joanne Lamb, and Shoshana Stotland. If you are here in our sanctuary and are thinking of someone in particular this Shabbat, I'd like to invite you to share their name aloud as my eyes meet yours so that we can all hold that person and you in our hearts.
Arlene Lapel.
We additionally think of Robin Schaefer, Simone Irving, Nadine Picar and Ron Picar, Will McHenry, Olivia Escoboza, Claire Steinberger, Linda Lord, Michelle Dunn, Michael Hoffey, and Fran and Alan Lapidus. I'd like to invite all of us to turn to words of healing, words that have been offered generation and generation, the words of the Misha Berach on page 253.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Well, in just a moment, we'll continue with the words of Aleinu, and we'll hear about the reasoning for it, but we're going to get a little bit of a different version. Just as we have tasked our young people with showing us how to see these ancient words and ancient tradition in new light, they have shown us new words as well. So we're going to hear about the words of Aleinu, an alternative version, a new version. I'd like to call up our 7th grade class.
This year, when our class studied the Aleinu, we discussed some of the problematic themes of this prayer, mainly the part that separates the Jews from the other people. Especially after learning about the Holocaust, we felt very strongly about not reciting a prayer that makes any reference to being separated into groups. We like to share this alternate Aleinu that has positively changed phrases to be more inclusive to all people.
Please rise.
Please be seated. Well, our thoughts now turn to those in our community who have died in recent days or in this season in years past. And so if you're joining us online, I invite you to share the names of those that you are thinking of in the chat at this time. Together, our hearts are with those who have lost someone in recent days. And so as we remember Alan Kelson, our hearts go out to Dan and Rachel Kelson and Isaac and Abby. And as we remember Frida Ferris, our hearts go out to Dan and Joanne. And as we remember Jamie Megan Hyde, our hearts go out to Audrey Hyde-Zoller, Charles Hyde, Joan, Lindsay, and Jared. And as we remember Burnett Rudolph, our hearts go out to Marcia Wertheimer. Additionally, this Shabbat, we mark the yard site, the anniversary of the death of Golda Berman, Crescent Briggs, Lafayette Briggs, Rose Brodsky, Jenny Bukoff, Claire Carver, Leo Frankel, Irene Gertler, Manuel Greenberg, Tom Griffin, John Haddow, Bernice Ham, Joan Hill, Arthur Kaiser, Samuel Karabinick, Bertha Leb, Dorothy Lerner, Milton Levy, Abraham Levenstein, Lynn Moreland, Benjamin Newman, Silvino Quintana, Burton Rosen, Mary Schaefer, Maxwell Singer, Nathan Sogolo, Beatrice Stotland, Barbara Strickland, Frank Weinberger, Gertrude Weinfeld, and Harry Wolowitz. If you are here thinking of someone in particular this Shabbat, I invite you to share their name aloud as my eyes meet yours. Additionally, we think of Mary Schaefer. I'd like to invite all of us to turn to the words on page 294, and for each of us to rise together in love and in solidarity as we offer the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Itkadal, Itkadash Shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divarach yurte ve'amlich malchute v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'gala v'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba mevorach leolam omel maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei dekudisha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata Damiron bi'ama v'imru, Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim alenu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Osei shalom mimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alenu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, Amen. Zichronam livracha, may the memories of those that touch each and every one of our lives, who have made us a different person, may they continue to live on in our memories and in our hearts. I invite us together to say, Amen. Well, I would like to invite us, as we have in all of our practices of mourning, we are a community that does not shy away from offering and thinking about things that are difficult, and at the same time, we have a practice of something called a nechemta. Nechemta is the idea that in any time that we might delve into something that is difficult, we offer a little bit of light at the end of that particular thing. And so we are, in just a couple of moments, going to offer a special song, a bit of a Nechemta, a blessing for this evening, reminding ourselves of the light and the peace that we have in this world and that we could bring into it. But I want to, before we do that, invite us to actually have a seat. We are going to hear some announcements from Lori Arroyo, a member of our board of directors, hear about some of the things that are going on at Temple Israel in this week. And I am always amazed at how much goes on in 1 week. So Lori, here's the challenge. You have to do it in one breath.
Done.
Okay.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
First of all, I want to express how full I feel sitting here with all of you, with the Bat Mitzvah family and the families of the wonderful students and the students themselves. We are full of light. I am full of light, and I can both barely breathe and am so full of breath. And I want to thank all of you for making this for me. Okay, now, thank you to Danielle and Zach Zwillinger for sponsoring tonight's pre-Shabbat Oneg and the Challah and Kiddush following the service in honor of their daughter Lily's bat mitzvah. And congratulations, Lily. Oh, so sorry. Tomorrow morning, please join with Rabbi Fox for our weekly Torah study, beginning at 8:45 a.m. Many, slowly, with the end or the changing of the COVID atmosphere, people are starting to come back and attend in person. And as I'm sure you feel tonight, to be here in person is very special. So I want to encourage people to come. Tomorrow's Shabbat morning service begins at 10:30, where we'll be celebrating the bat mitzvah of Lily Zwillinger. Again, Mazel Tov to the entire family. This Sunday, join us at 2 p.m. as Janet List teaches us the history of Jewish candy. Now talk about something sweet after all of this, speaking of the pain, but also the connection with history, that we are our past and we're our present and we're our future. We have a couple of special weekends coming up. Next Shabbat, join us as we welcome our Pilger Scholar in Residence, Rabbi Laura Novak Weiner, Director of the Master of Educational Leadership Program at the Hebrew Union College. You can see details in the Shabbat program and also on our website. Please RSVP for Saturday's Lunch and Learn. Call the office. Talk to Charmaine. In 2 weeks, we'll be celebrating Shabbat at home, so if you want to enjoy a Shabbat dinner in a congregant's home, please RSVP and plan to join in on Friday, March 31st. This is pre-pandemic. This was something that was planned, I think, a couple of times a year, at most quarterly, and now we're resuming some of those previous engagements. Let's see. Lastly, it's the last weekend to sign up for our congregational retreat, which is March 31st through April 2nd, held at Brandeis Barden Institute in Simi Valley. It will be a fun, multi-generational weekend, so please get your reservation forms in. Scholarships are also available for families in need who want to attend. We have a lot of classes and programs that I haven't mentioned, the regular things, and you can find those online on our website. If you ever have a question about how to attend one of our classes and programs, look for our emails, call the temple office, look for people with these badges who are on the board and they may know something. and look at the calendar on our website. Shabbat Shalom.
Just a little taste of what's going on at Temple Israel in just 1 week. We have so many different things that we have going on. It feels a little different, right? We had to go through all of the different prayers. We had to do this thing. In fact, there is one of my favorite stories in the Talmud. I'll say this really quickly. Sorry. Then we'll sing. One of my favorite stories in the Talmud describes somebody coming over to another person's home on Shabbat and saying, "This food tastes amazing. I must have the recipe. I must have the spice," they say. And the response is, "I put this spice in it, but I don't know whether you're going to really need it." I guess in this story, we can think of it as 3 different times, right? "I must have it. Sorry, I can't give it to you. I must have this spice. I'm sorry, I can't give it." Well, what do you call the spice? The name of the spice is called Shabbat, right? And it doesn't actually work on something. If you were to just try to bottle it up and put it on the things, there is simply no way to have that spice unless you place all the different pieces together and celebrate it. And so, we're going to sing a little bit about that feeling of peace that we get on Shabbat when we add just the right spices when we sit together. We'll sing together, "O Say Shalom." I'd like to invite our 7th graders back up, and there's going to be a couple of hand motions for all of us who are not on the beam. I invite us to get the hang of it. They're pretty fun. Here we go. Well, a special Yasher Koach to our 7th graders. All right, well done, Yasher Koach. And I want to offer a special Yasher Koach as well to their teachers, Linda Kiles and Rachel Van Ralt. Yasher Koach, what a beautiful job of teaching our 7th graders. Thank you for teaching them, for bringing them to the place where they can lead us in this way. Yasher Koach to the both of you. We're going to continue our celebration tonight just outside of our sanctuary with our Kiddush and Motzi. And so I invite us to, let's schmooze up with one another a little bit, and then we'll join just outside of our sanctuary for some sweetness and simcha. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.